Bengals fans would like to know, I think, I just said the magic name Burrow. You know,
Yeah.
you're always seen as a guy that Peter's tough on us. I don't see it, but I don't see it, but I think anytime, but I will say there is a national perception about the Bengals that I think is off. I think the national perception is off.
You know what? This is an interesting thing, and we'll talk about Joe Burrow in a second, but I tell people a lot of times that I really like Mike Brown.
Yeah.
And they all look at me like I've got something strange growing out of my head. and I just say, listen, Mike Brown is a genuine person. He is who he is. He is absolutely the same guy that he was a long time ago, and that's just who he is.
Yeah.
And I don't, people I don't like are the phonies. And look, I've been critical of Mike Brown, very critical of Mike Brown, and as have most people in this business. But I do think the one thing about Mike Brown is say whatever you want to say about him, but he's himself.
Yeah.
But just talking about Cincinnati, I don't know. This is an odd way to look at it, I guess, Geoff, but I do think that the Bengals mostly really hang on to people for a long time. Many times I think about the Bengals that the most important thing isn't winning necessarily. They don't tear things apart every 4 years when they're not winning. And it would be great if they were like the Steelers, who don't tear things apart, but they still win a lot.
Right.
And look, the Bengals have won more. They won more in the Andy Dalton years than they had won consecutively or consistently for a long time.
That's why Mike doesn't tear it up. But that's why Mike doesn't tear it up. He feels like you need now. Maybe you can say he's stubborn and he hangs on, but yeah. I do think he's right. I think the less you tear it up, the better shot you have of succeeding. I mean, I think. I don't know. This is what I always try to do, Geoff, and we'll talk about Burrow in a minute, but I just try to call it the way I see it. Right. That's
all. I don't.
Fans are sensitive.
Yeah. And this is the year when I'm getting hit a lot with, you're rooting for COVID to knock football out. I mean, I don't know where that comes from, but I've gotten that a lot lately. And it's kind of mindful really of, if somebody reads something, and I'm like this too, maybe some political writer who I read, if I read one sentence, that colors everything in that column or that story from that person. But, there's so much more intense interest in the NFL today than when I first started.
And the fans are great, and our fans are great. I mean, I love them. I mean, thank God. I mean, they're the reason I exist. They're the reason the website exists. They are so passionate, and I think they feel like. And I think you're right. They're coming off a really good run with Andy Dalton. That didn't, if they had won a playoff a game or two, it would have been really heralded. But it's an interesting. People can say what they want to about Mike, but he spent the most. This has been the most uncertain economic outlook in his lifetime. And this is a kid who was born in the Depression. And he and Mike spent the most money he's ever spent. And people, he doesn't want to win. I don't know. He wants to win. And, nobody still knows what the economy is going to be like. Nobody knows what the cap's going to be. And he put it all on the table, and he went big time. He got his quarterback, I think, drew it. I mean, it's right out of the Mike Brown. He couldn't have dreamt one up better, could he have?
Well, one thing before I give you a few thoughts on Burrow.
Yeah.
I think one of the best free agent signings, very fortunate for the Bengals that he didn't have the market that I thought he absolutely should have, was Von Bell.
Yeah.
Von Bell is a really good safety. And I have a feeling that he'll be one of those guys that he'll be a 7-year Bengal because they're going to fall in love with him. That's just my thought.
Yep.
You know, his ethos is great. You know, he's just one of these guys. He loves football, and the Bengals are really going to love having this guy.
Great sign. But they gotta rip up their defense, and they do it with Reader, Hines, and Bell.
Right, which is good. Yeah. So, okay. So I guess I would make this point about Joe Burrow. One of the reasons why, and look, I think Tua could be utterly fantastic, right, but I just would worry about Tua's hip. That's all. I mean, you know, it's a rough game, and you don't want to enter into the game wondering if you're going to be able to play for 12 or 15 years. And I just do. I'm sorry. It might not be fair, might not be right. But that's one reason that I would really want Burrow. But I think the other reason that I probably, even if Tua were healthy, I mean, Geoff, I do not watch college football a lot at all.
Right. And
last year, I watched 2 games in their entirety. I watched the Alabama-Auburn game, and I watched the national championship game. And all I can say is that, you know, when you watch the first, say, I don't mean Alabama-Auburn. I watch Alabama-LSU, and then LSU in the national championship game. Excuse me for that. But here's the thing that I thought, and I'm sure you can find it on YouTube or whatever. Go back to the first series, say the first 10 plays of the Alabama LSU game, and just think about it. This is the biggest game far and away that Joe Burrow has ever played in his life. Not even close. Okay. And he comes out there, and I remember because I've asked Joe Brady about this. And he went out there, Geoff, and he just started throwing the ball downfield. Yeah. He wasn't trying to dink and dunk, let's build him up with some confidence or whatever. And Joe Brady said, that's the kind of player I was. You had to build me up with confidence first. But he said, Joe Burrow, he was very disdainful of that. And, you know, of having to go out and get some confidence on, you know, before you really started to let it loose. And I just thought to myself, in the biggest game of your life, with everybody in the world watching, and probably 20 NFL coaches have got that game tuned wherever they are, in some hotel on the road or, you know, at home, whatever. Everybody wants to watch this game. And Joe Burrow comes out and he starts the game like Johnny Unitas would. Just bang, 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 throwing it downfield. And I thought, this guy's not afraid. Yeah. And that's why I would be very comfortable with putting the load of a franchise on his shoulders, which is obviously what the Bengals have done.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess they're banking on him having a little bit of boomer in him. He's got a little bit of stuff in his neck. He's got a little bit of stuff in his neck.
Yeah.
And yet, you know, he's got the Heisman pedigree of Carson Palmer, and you know, he's got the rhythm and the accuracy and the of Dalton. You know.
Yeah.
So they're hoping they get the you know, and the Kenny Anderson, of course, probably should be in the Hall of Fame. Great completion percentage. So they're hoping they get the best of all 4.
Yeah. I think he's going to be good, Geoff. I really do. I like him, and I like his attitude. I just do. I think he's really got a chance.